Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Colleen and I'm glad that you're here with me today. I have gone to the old blue book that people who are familiar with the channel will recognize. It's our old family history book because it's fall, whether we want to admit it or not. And I have a recipe that I'm going to share with you today for chicken stew. It's a really simple recipe, but I'm going to add some parsley dumplings to the chicken stew, and it is dead simple too. It's just a matter of following along in the steps. And I will be right back and we'll get started right after this. Now you can choose any kind of chicken pieces that you want for this recipe. I'm using chicken thighs. They have the bone in. It's a little more fussy when you're on your plate because you're cutting around the chicken bone, but that chicken bone adds so much flavor to the recipe that it's worth the extra effort. So I'm just going to lightly salt and pepper these chicken thighs. And over on my stove, I have my big 5-quart pot that's got a good heavy bottom. I have it on medium-high, and I'm going to put these in there. Actually, now that I'm looking at them, I might do a little trimming on this side, but I'm going to get them into that pot and get them started. I'm not adding any flour at this point because I don't want any of the flour to scorch on the bottom of the pot, because that's where we're going to scrape up the little bits, and we don't want the little bits to be black. So I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors and trim this a little bit. My cooking scissors. And get rid of some of these long scraggly bits of fat because we don't need them. Now, you could definitely use chicken thighs that had the bone removed. You could do that for sure, but I would recommend leaving the skin on while you cook them, just to add extra flavor. You can, after you've cooked them or partly cooked them, you can definitely take them out of the pot because we're going to do that anyway. And you could take the bone out and the skin off if you chose to do it that way, to get rid of them. But that skin on, it really does get nice and brown. So I'm going to get this into the pot on the stove and get it started to brown, and we're just going to make it golden brown on each side because we're going to cook this more. We don't have to cook it all the way through. So I'm just going to get it in the pot, and I'll be right back and we'll get started on the vegetable portion of this chicken stew. Here I have the thighs in the pot, and you can see they're sizzling away really well. And I'm trying to hold up my phone while I do this. They're still sticking to the bottom of the pot. That means that they're not cooked enough. You need to cook them a little longer. So try that. Once they release from the bottom of the pot, they're ready to turn over. Okay, I've got the chicken out of the pan. Drained a bit of oil, as you saw, because there was too much oil in the pan. And now here in front of me I've got kind of the basis for any good soup or stew. I've got carrot, celery, onion. Now the onion is just some frozen onions. When I have a bunch of onions and some of them look like they might go bad, I just chop them and put them on cookie sheets in the freezer, and then once they're fully frozen, I dump them into a freezer bag, and then I can take them out as I need them. So today, this is what I'm doing. This is some of our homegrown onions. So I've got a cup of onions, and I'm just going to chop up the rest of these. I've sliced down the celery stalks, and they're small. They were in a bag of hearts of celery, so you know those are never as big. So there's 3 small ones here. Oh, no, 4 small ones. So probably 2 stalks of celery would be plenty for this recipe. 2 full-size stalks. if you grow your own celery, am I saying that correctly? Celery. If you grow your own celery, it will have a stronger flavor, so you may not need as much. These carrots, I just, they're from our garden as well, and I am just going to cut them into coins best that I can. This is a rustic dish, chicken stew or chicken and dumplings, and it doesn't need to have everything be really precise. So we'll just get through these. Making a lot of racket. I don't like the end of this one, so I'm going to take it out. I didn't peel these carrots because they have very soft skins on them. We put them into our crisper, like just take the crisper part out, filled it full of carrots, so that we'd have fresh carrots for everyday use for probably a couple of months. And they're so wonderful, and so we don't have any reason to take the skins off. They didn't have a chance to mature in the garden, so there you go. So now I'm going to get this into the pot, and we'll get this frying, and I'll come back and we'll do a few more things. Now I should let you know that I added a wee bit of butter to that pot as well. So there is a little bit of butter in there. It just helps with the browning and to keep everything moving in that direction where we're getting nice brown flavors. I'm just going to cut up some garlic to put in there. It's not going to go in right away. It'll go in towards the end of the cook, but we do need it, so let's get that out of the way. And for the end of the cook also, we're going to need some chopped parsley. So as long as we've got the little gourd out, let's do all these little things. So there's the garlic. Again, it doesn't have to be cut precisely or perfectly. Knife skills are not really needed right here. Now, we seldom get flat leaf parsley in our stores in Golden. We usually get the curly kind. So it's what we're used to cooking with, and sometimes you'll mess up and think you're getting flat leaf parsley when in fact it's cilantro on the wrong shelf. So it goes good in most dishes, what can I say? If you're a cilantro lover. My husband did not care for cilantro at all. So now I've got some parsley chopped up, and I'm going to set this aside, and I will be back when it's time to take the next step here. So everything in here has gotten nicely cooked. It's even a little brown. So to this right now, I'm going to add a scant quarter of a cup of flour, and this will help to thicken it as we go down the road. So you can see there's still bits in the bottom of the pot, but we are going to get those right away. Right now I'm going to add the the garlic into the pot and give that a scrub around, along with about a half a teaspoon of thyme, dried thyme. And I'm also going to add 4 cups of chicken stock. And I can see the bottom of my pot's getting very brown, so now is the perfect time for that to go in there. I'm just going to do a little bit to start with and scrape as I go. And this will definitely thicken up. And then do this again. And we'll do it a couple times just to get it all in there. Now, some people wait, and it's perfectly acceptable to wait until you have the chicken back in here and everything's cooking before, or is cooked before you take the chicken back out, add, a slurry of flour and the chicken stock, and bring it to a boil. because once you get the oh my goodness, once you get the dumplings on top, you're pretty much hooped. You can't stir underneath that. So you want to make sure your temperature is good so that you're not sticking the flour to the bottom, and make sure that the flour is thoroughly mixed in. So we are going to stir this and cook this for a minute, and then I'm going to add the chicken to the pot along with some potatoes, and we're going to let that cook for about 25 to 30 minutes before we put the dumplings back in. I'm going to turn that down. I don't want it to go too hot. So then I'm going to add the chicken back to the pot and some potatoes, and we're going to let that cook for 20 minutes before we put the dumplings on the top. So I will just grab the chicken and we'll get that going. Just nestle all the chicken down there into the bottom of the pot, because if you'll remember, the chicken didn't cook all the way through. We just browned it on both sides. And now we're going to completely cook it. Also going to add the juices that are left on the pan, because that juice will be good in the pot. Well, let's get the potatoes in there. I have about 3 cups of small potatoes that I have, some of them I've halved just to cook them a little faster. And I washed them good. And now I'm going to nestle them down in there. And this is looking good. I'm going to put a lid on this, and we're going to let it simmer away for the next, or come to a light boil and simmer for the next 20 minutes before we do anything else. In the meantime, I will be working on the dumplings, so I'll show you that process as well so that it doesn't make you nervous. I've got my recipe right here, because it's not one I make very often, so I'm definitely going to look at it. This is simple. It's basically a biscuit recipe, and so it's quite simple. We need 1.5 cups of flour. It says sifted flour. I will be honest and say I don't sift much. And I need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And I need 1/2 teaspoon. I wonder what I did with that. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I don't know, you might be hearing the stew working away on the stove there. I'm going to give this a quick stir, and then I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of shortening. And that looks like a pretty big tablespoon to me. And this mix is one that you don't want to play with very much, which you know is pretty much fine. Gosh, I'm making a mess. When have you heard me say that before? And we're going to call that 3. We'll get rid of those. And I'm just going to cover that shortening with a bit of flour, and then I'm going to get in there with my pastry cutter, and I'm just going to cut that in. Well, it's in small pieces, like quite fine. You want it to be mixed well throughout the flour. Like bigger breadcrumbs, I guess, maybe. Pretty crumbly. And just walk through my recipe again and make sure I'm not missing anything. Nope. And now I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley. These are parsley dumplings, and I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of crushed rosemary. And I'm just going to do a crush in my hand. So give it a good crush. You don't want the pieces to be full in here, because these don't cook very long and they don't get a big chance to rehydrate in there. So I'm going to give that a just a stir just to mix it all together. And then I am going to add to the mixture 3/4 cup of whole milk. It can be whatever milk you happen to have on hand. It doesn't have to be whole. Now, here's my mixture, and you just mix it enough till you don't see any dry flour in it, which doesn't take long. So I've come up with a bowl like a ball like that, and I'm going to take 2 spoons with me to the pot, and I'm going to just drop them a teaspoon at a time onto the pot. So follow along. Here we are over at the stove and back at the pot, and I'm just going to lift the lid. You can see how much this is reduced and how much it's still bubbling, and we don't want to lose all that steam. So I am going to start right off the bat, and we'll get some dumplings on there. I'll just make them about, they'll be a little ragged even, about tablespoon sized, maybe a little bigger. I should say that I'm working with a dessert spoon. I'm not using a proper measurement for this of a spoon. And you want to work as fast as you possibly can to keep. Well, here I am. The pot is still just a bubbling away, and I am going to lift the lid and have a look inside. The dumplings have puffed up nicely. I'm going to remove a couple. Oh my gosh, look at them. They're nice and springy. And I'm going to get in here and get out a piece of chicken and some vegetables. This is a wonderful meal on a fall day for sure. And there's a piece of chicken. Oh, I forgot to note earlier that I also added some bay leaves to the mixture. So I'm glad those came to the top right away so you could see it. Now I'm just going to grab a spoon and I'll ladle some sauce on there. So that we've got some extra sauce for our dumplings. And there you go, folks. And there you go, folks. That's what's for dinner tonight at our house. We are having chicken stew with dumplings, and I hope that you've enjoyed this recipe. If you have, would you please consider giving it a like, a thumbs up, subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and share it with your friends, because there's not a lot of people that are making chicken stew with dumplings anymore, so I'm sure there's other people who would enjoy it. Take care, everybody. I will see you on the next one.